Kindergarten Dolphins. We're going to do some reading today. We're continuing to work with our friend Fritz today, and we're actually going to be looking at something brand new. So I'm really excited to get started. We'll begin with our objective. So I'll start and you repeat. Objective is what we are going to learn. Our objective today says I can identify different types of sentences. Ooh, so this is brand new. We've only really ever talked about reading sentences. Today we're going to be seeing two types of sentences that we might come across in our reading. And then we're going to be working on identifying, figuring out how we can tell what type of sentence we're reading. So we're going to use our Fritz book today and our practice pages for homework. So make sure you have those things and we'll get started. All right, so let's begin with talking about the two types of sentences that we're going to learn about today. Here's some new vocabulary. Remember, vocabulary is like when we learn new words that we didn't know before, and so we need to talk about what they mean. The first new word we're learning is the word declarative. Try it out. Declarative. Declarative, the word declare means to say something. So when we have a declarative sentence, this type of sentence tells us information about something. Here's an example of a declarative sentence. Talk is fast. Talk is fast. This sentence has a period at the end, and it told us some information. What did it tell us? It told us some information about talk. It told us that she's fast. So that sentence is called declarative. It told us some information. The other type of sentence we're going to learn about is called interrogative. Try that out. Interrogative. Now an interrogative question, this word interro, kind of like interrogate, means to ask a question. So an interrogative sentence asks a question about something. And here's an example. Is talk fast? Is she? It's a question. And you'll notice this sentence has a question mark at the end. A question mark looks like this. That tells us that this sentence is asking us a question. It's not telling us information, it's asking for information. So here's the two differences. Talk is fast. There's a period at the end and it told us information. Is talk fast? That's a question and it has a question mark at the end. Those are our two types of sentences, declarative and interrogative. We're going to look at two types of sentences now and decide, is it declarative or interrogative? All right, so these two sentences are both going to be about my worm. One of them is going to be declarative, one of them is going to be interrogative. We're going to need to put the correct punctuation, so either a period or a question mark for the type of sentence. Our first one says, is it flat? Is it flat? Is that telling us something or is that asking a question? Is it flat? That's asking a question. We're trying to figure out, is the worm flat? So what do we need to have at the end? We need a question mark because this is an interrogative sentence. It is asking us a question. Is it flat? Let's find out. It is flat. It is flat. Is that asking us a question or giving us information? That's giving us information. So we're going to put a period at the end of that sentence because it is declarative, not interrogative. It's not asking us something, it's telling us something. It is flat. It's telling us that the worm is flat. Nice work. Let's keep going. Okay, the other new information that I want to give you today is we're going to be hearing a new memory word. Remember, a memory word is a word that we're not going to sound out because it doesn't sound like our letter sounds. It's a word that we want to just remember how to read when we see it because we're going to see it a lot. And this memory word is I. When we see the letter I by itself in a sentence, we don't say the sound I. We just say the letter name I. For example, this turtle is saying sit still. And this one is saying I slid off. When we see that letter I by itself, we're not saying I, we're saying I, just the letter name, because this turtle's talking about himself. I slid off the rock. Try using a sentence where you use the letter I by itself. For example, I am your teacher. I am reading about Fritz. I am wearing a sweater. Can you come up with a sentence using I? I bet you came up with a good one. We're now going to open up our Fritz book and we're going to put all these things together. We're going to open up to pages 8 and 9 and we're going to see declarative and interrogative sentences, and we're going to see sentences that have I in them. Okay, so here we are on pages 8 and 9, and what a crazy picture we've got going on here. In this picture, Fritz and Lily are fishing, and they've got their toes dangling in the water. Now, fish, maybe they've never seen toes. Fish don't have feet. They might not know what toes are. So these fish have a lot of thoughts about these toes. Some of the fish are saying interrogative sentences, asking questions. Some of them are saying declarative sentences, making some statements about these toes. And we've got some turtles and some frogs hanging out too. So what we're going to do now is we're going to read through these sentences and we're going to decide, is this a declarative or interrogative sentence? Okay, so let's get started. We're going to begin over here at this orange fish. Remember, we always read left to right. So we're going to start on the left side of the page at the top. We always start from the top and go right and then move on to our next line. So first, I see this goldfish. Let's sound out what this fish is saying. I see 3 memory words in this sentence. Is, it, those are 2 very important memory words. I see that letter A by itself. Remember, when we see A by itself, we say And now we can sound out our last word. Cat. Is it a cat? Does that sound like it's asking a question, or is it telling us something? It's asking a question. I also can tell because the end of this sentence has a question mark. That means that it's asking us a question. So is this a declarative or interrogative sentence? It's an interrogative sentence. Let's read it fluently now and make it sound like we're asking a question. When we ask a question, a lot of times our intonation, our voice goes higher at the end so people can hear that it's a question. Is it a cat? Do you hear how my voice went higher? That tells you that I'm asking a question. Is it a cat? The fish is asking, are these toes a cat? No, they're not. Let's go to our next picture, our next talk bubble. This fish is saying a sentence that has a rebus in it. Remember that a rebus is a picture that tells us what word to say. I see my memory words again. Is it a worm? And I see my question mark there telling me that this is what kind of sentence? Declarative or interrogative? It's interrogative because this fish is also asking a question. Is it a worm? Are these toes a worm? No, but we know that. The fish doesn't though. And let's go down to this orange talk bubble next. I see my memory words again. Is it a fish? This rebus is a picture of a fish. And what do we see here that tells us what kind of sentence this is? We see another question mark that tells us this is an interrogative sentence. It's asking a question. Is it a fish? Are the toes a fish? No. Now let's go down to our fish at the bottom of the page here. It is. There's my memory words again. And now I can sound this last word out. Odd. Odd. It is odd. Now that sentence sounded different than the ones I just read. Instead of starting with, is it? now, what kind of sentence is this fish saying? It's making a declarative sentence. It's giving us information. It is odd. It's not asking a question. It's just telling us it is odd. These toes are odd. I also can tell because it has a period at the end instead of a question mark. That means it's not asking a question. It's giving information. It is odd. Let's see what this fish says. Is it? There's my two memory words. Is it? Now let's sound out our last word. Lost. There's my ST blend at the end. Lost. Is it lost? Is that a question or is that a statement? That was a question. This was an interrogative sentence, and I can also tell because it has that question mark at the end. And I heard this sentence start with that word is. Is it lost? Here, the fish said, it is odd. It wasn't asking a question, it was telling us. And this fish is saying, is it lost? Are the toes lost? What are they doing here? These are questions. Let's go to this green fish. They're looking at the worm on the hook. And this fish says, and let's sound out this word that this fish is saying. Starts with letter L. Lift. 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 Lift it. There's our memory word. Here's another good memory word that we're going to sound out though. Off. Off. Lift it off. And now let's sound out that last word. Fast. Fast. Lift it off fast. Lift it off fast. Is that a question or is that fish telling us something? He's telling us something. We can also tell because there is a period at the end, not a question mark. So this fish is talking about the worm and he's telling his friends, lift it off fast, grab that worm. Now what is this frog saying over here? I notice that the frog is saying the same thing 3 times. So I'm going to sound it out 1 time, but I don't need to sound it out again because the letters are the same. The word is not changing. So let's sound it out 1 time. Starts with letter G. G, l, og, glog, glog, glog. He's saying glog, and he says it 3 times. Glog, glog, glog. He's swimming in the water. Glug, glug, glug. That's the sound he's making. Now we have 2 more little talk bubbles here. We have a turtle down at the bottom, and he's saying to his friend, sit, sit, st, ill, still. Hey, we talked about those words yesterday. I see an it family word and an ill family word. Sit still. And the little turtle is saying, I slid off. Now, were those interrogative or declarative sentences? They were declarative sentences. How do we know? Well, they weren't asking questions, and I didn't see a question mark. I see a period at the end. So that's how I know both of these sentences are declarative sentences. And here we see our memory word I. That turtle's saying I. We don't say eh. He's saying I. I slid off. This turtle is telling him, sit still. And the other one said, I slid off. He slid off the rock. Oh no. And now we read through the whole page. That was so awesome, you guys. We learned a lot from these fish. We heard some interrogative sentences, some declarative sentences. We heard some sounds. And we got to see what those fish were thinking in the water. I'm going to show you what you're going to practice at home for your homework. And then I'm going to explain how you're going to turn in your homework today. Okay, for our homework today, we are going to work on practice page 62. Open up your practice page book to page 62, and it looks like this. On this page, we see some super kids. And we see some interrogative and declarative sentences. At the top of each box, what kind of sentence do we see? It has a question mark at the end, so that tells us it's an interrogative sentence. It's a sentence that's asking a question. And they all start with the words, is it? And then it's asking you, is it a super kid? Now your job here is to figure out, is that picture the right super kid? The first box says, is it Fritz? Now, is that a picture of Fritz? No, that's not a picture of Fritz. We want to write a declarative sentence telling us who that super kid is. Is it Fritz? No, that's a picture of Alf. So our sentence says, it is, and now I need to write Alf's name. Now, if I don't remember how to write Alf's name, what could I do? I could sound it out, or I could look back in my Super Kids books to find how Alf writes his name. So here's the question, is it Fritz? I'm going to write, it is Alf. It is Alf. Now, for all of these sentences, you need to look at the picture carefully and figure out, is that the super kid they're asking about? And then, if it is, then you can... Let's look at one more together. This one says, is it Sal? Is it Sal? And do we see a picture of Sal here? Yeah, we do. So this one is correct. It is Sal. So we can write his name again. It is Sal. Now, one thing we need to remember is these are declarative sentences. Are they going to have a question mark at the end? No, they're going to have a period. So I'm going to write a period at the end of my sentences there to show the reader that these are declarative sentences. So go through each picture, read the question, read the interrogative sentence, is it, and then it's going to ask you if it's a certain super kid, and then look carefully at the picture and decide, is it that super kid? And then you're going to write who is in the picture on the line. For turning in your homework today, for your homework today, I want you to finish this page and then take a video reading me the sentences, okay? So I want you to remember, when we read interrogative sentences, we want to make it sound like we're asking a question. Which one sounds like I'm asking a question? Is it Fritz? Is it Fritz? The first one or the second one? Which one sounded more like I was asking a question? The second time. So when you read your questions and your answers for your homework, make it sound like you're asking a question. And then when you read the answer, you can make it sound like you're giving an answer. Is it Fritz? It is Alf. So I was reading fluently, with expression, showing that I know the difference between my interrogative and my declarative sentences. All right, kindergartners, I know this was kind of tough. It's super new stuff we haven't worked on yet. If you have any questions, let me know. And you can also come to Homework Help and I'll help you with it, okay? All right, friends, I'll see you guys later. Bye!